If I were a betting man and I was asked, will Africa fly or fail? I'll surely put my money on Africa flying.
Never again should we allow a system where people take the resources of this country and steal the resources of this country, use the resources against the people, and at the same time, they want to continue in rulership.
Our focus is on the welfare, prosperity, and well-being of our people.
I'm so pleased that the government of President Buhari has chosen the path of the people, to stand with the people, to be with the people. We are not an elite government. We have chosen to take the side of the people and will remain taking the side of the people of this country.
Those who keep reminding us of the good old days are probably suffering from memory loss. We are in the best times possible today.
But the task of nation building is never done. The builders confront new problems every day.
Every Nigerian who is prepared to work hard ought to have something to do.
What makes Africa work is what will work anywhere else. And I think that has been tried and demonstrated in so many African economies. Day by day, step by step, we're going in the right direction.
In any event, all the problems that our people have will be solved by men and women, not spirits. We are those men and women. History and providence have put us in these positions at this time. This century is the Africa century, where Africa will either be the world's nemesis or it will be its savior. Three things will decide. 1, leadership. 2, leadership. 3, leadership.
We are in the best times in the history of mankind. Let nobody tell you about the good old days.
As the rich and powerful claim legal rights before the courts, we must remember that the poor also deserve social and economic justice. We cannot take our diversity for granted. The fullness of our strength lies in that diversity. And we must wield that diversity not as a divisive tool, but instead as a binding agent.
In our political and democratic evolution, a viral labor is a sine qua non. In the interest of the men and women of our society who need a voice to speak loudly against economic or social injustice, labor must remain united.
I think that the main lesson that Africa has learned and that African governments have learned is that there is no African exceptionalism. What makes Africa work is what makes economies work anywhere. Honest, visionary leadership and good governance, letting the private sector and markets lead, diversification from resource-based revenues, and developing the human potential that is so available within the continent.
If I were a betting man and I was asked, will Africa fly or fail? I'll surely put my money on Africa flying.
Never again should we allow a system where people take the resources of this country and steal the resources of this country, use the resources against the people, and at the same time, they want to continue in rulership.
Our focus is on the welfare, prosperity, and well-being of our people.
I'm so pleased that the government of President Buhari has chosen the path of the people, to stand with the people, to be with the people. We are not an elite government. We have chosen to take the side of the people and will remain taking the side of the people of this country.
Those who keep reminding us of the good old days are probably suffering from memory loss. We are in the best times possible today.
But the task of nation building is never done. The builders confront new problems every day.
Every Nigerian who is prepared to work hard ought to have something to do.
What makes Africa work is what will work anywhere else. And I think that has been tried and demonstrated in so many African economies. Day by day, step by step, we're going in the right direction.
In any event, all the problems that our people have will be solved by men and women, not spirits. We are those men and women. History and providence have put us in these positions at this time. This century is the Africa century, where Africa will either be the world's nemesis or it will be its savior. Three things will decide. 1, leadership. 2, leadership. 3, leadership.
We are in the best time in the history of mankind. Let nobody tell you about the good old days.
As the rich and powerful claim legal rights before the courts, we must remember that the poor also deserve social and economic justice. We cannot take our diversity for granted. The fullness of our strength lies in that diversity, and we must wield that diversity not as a divisive tool, but instead as a binding agent.
In our political and democratic evolution, a viral labor is a sine qua non. In the interest of the men and women of our society who need a voice to speak loudly against economic or social injustice, labor must remain united.
I think that the main lesson that Africa has learned and that African governments have learned is that there is no African exceptionalism. What makes Africa work is what makes economies work anywhere. Honest visionary leadership and good governance, letting the private sector and markets lead, diversification from resource-based revenues, and developing the human potential that is so available within the continent.
If I were a betting man and I was asked, will Africa fly or fail? I'll surely put my money on Africa flying.
Never again should we allow a system where people take the resources of this country and steal the resources of this country, use the resources against the people, and at the same time, they want to continue in rulership. Our focus is on the welfare, prosperity, and well-being of our people.
I'm so pleased that the government of President Buhari has chosen the path of the people, to stand with the people, to be with the people. We are not an elite government. We have chosen to take the side of the people and will remain taking the side of the people of this country.
Those who keep reminding us of the good old days are probably suffering from memory loss. We are in the best times possible today.
But the task of nation building is never done. The builders confront new problems every day.
Every Nigerian who is prepared to work hard ought to have something to do. What makes Africa work is what will work anywhere else. And I think that's been tried and demonstrated in so many African economies.
Day by day, step by step, we're going in the right direction.
In any event, all the problems that our people have will be solved by men and women, not spirits. We are those men and women. History and providence have put us in these positions at this time.
This century is the Africa century, where Africa will either be the world's nemesis or it will be its savior. Three things will decide. 1, leadership. 2, leadership. 3, leadership.
We are in the best time in the history of mankind. Let nobody tell you about the good old days.
As the rich and powerful claim legal rights before the courts, we must remember that the poor also deserve social and economic justice. We cannot take our diversity for granted. The fullness of our strength lies in that diversity, and we must wield that diversity not as a divisive tool, but instead as a binding agent.
In our political and democratic evolution, a viral labor is a sine qua non. In the interest of the men and women of our society who need a voice to speak loudly against economic or social injustice, labor must remain united.
I think that the main lesson that Africa has learned and that African governments have learned is that there is no African exceptionalism. What makes Africa work is what makes economies work anywhere. Honest visionary leadership and good governance, letting the private sector and markets lead, diversification from resource-based revenues, and developing the human potential that is so available within the continent.
If I were a betting man and I was asked, will Africa fly or fail? I'll surely put my money on Africa flying.
Never again should we allow a system where people take the resources of this country and steal the resources of this country, use the resources against the people, and at the same time, they want to continue in rulership. Our focus is on the welfare, prosperity, and well-being of our people. I'm so pleased that the government of President Buhari has chosen the path of the people, to stand with the people, to be with the people. We are not an elite government. We have chosen to take the side of the people and will remain taking the side of the people of this country. Those who keep reminding us of the good old days are probably suffering from memory loss. We are in the best times possible today.
But the task of nation building is never done. The builders confront new problems every day.
Every Nigerian who is prepared to work hard ought to have something to do. What makes Africa work is what will work anywhere else. And I think that has been tried and demonstrated in so many African economies.
Day by day, step by step, we're going in the right direction.
In any event, all the problems that our people have will be solved by men and women, not spirits. We are those men and women. History and providence have put us in these positions at this time.
This century is the Africa century, where Africa will either be the world's nemesis or it will be its savior. Three things will decide. 1, leadership. 2, leadership. 3, leadership.
We are in the best times in the history of mankind. Let nobody tell you about the good old days.
As the rich and powerful claim legal rights before the courts, we must remember that the poor also deserve social and economic justice. We cannot take our diversity for granted. The fullness of our strength lies in that diversity. And we must wield that diversity not as a divisive tool, but instead as a binding agent.
In our political and democratic evolution, a viral labor is a sine qua non. In the interest of the men and women of our society who need a voice to speak loudly against economic or social injustice, labor must remain united.
I think that the main lesson that Africa has learned and that African governments have learned is that there is no African exceptionalism. What makes Africa work is what makes economies work anywhere. Honest visionary leadership and good governance, letting the private sector and markets lead, diversification from resource-based revenues, and developing the human potential that is so available within the continent.
If I were a betting man and I was asked, will Africa fly or fail? I'll surely put my money on Africa flying.
Never again should we allow a system where people take the resources of this country and steal the resources of this country, use the resources against the people, and at the same time, they want to continue in rulership. Our focus is on the welfare, prosperity, and well-being of our people.
I'm so pleased that the government of President Buhari has chosen the path of the people, to stand with the people, to be with the people. We are not an elite government. We have chosen to take the side of the people and will remain taking the side of the people of this country.
Those who keep reminding us of the good old days are probably suffering from memory loss. We are in the best times possible today.
But the task of nation building is never done. The builders confront new problems every day.
Every Nigerian who is prepared to work hard ought to have something to do. What makes Africa work is what will work anywhere else. And I think that has been tried and demonstrated in so many African economies.
Day by day, step by step, we're going in the right direction.
In any event, all the problems that our people have will be solved by men and women, not spirits. We are those men and women. History and providence have put us in these positions at this time.
This century is the Africa century, where Africa will either be the world's nemesis or it will be its savior. Three things will decide. 1, leadership. 2, leadership. 3, leadership. We are in the best time in the history of mankind. Let nobody tell you about the good old days.
As the rich and powerful claim legal rights before the courts, we must remember that the poor also deserve social and economic justice. We cannot take our diversity for granted. The fullness of our strength lies in that diversity. And we must wield that diversity not as a divisive tool, but instead as a binding agent.
In our political and democratic evolution, a viral labor is a sine qua non. In the interest of the men and women of our society who need a voice to speak loudly against economic or social injustice, labor must remain united.
I think that the main lesson that Africa has learned and that African governments have learned is that there is no African exceptionalism. What makes Africa work is what makes economies work anywhere. Honest visionary leadership and good governance, letting the private sector and markets lead, diversification from resource-based revenues, and developing the human potential that is so available within the continent.
If I were a betting man and I was asked, will Africa fly or fail? I'll surely put my money on Africa flying.
Never again should we allow a system where people take the resources of this country and steal the resources of this country, use the resources against the people, and at the same time, they want to continue in rulership. Our focus is on the welfare, prosperity, and well-being of our people.
I'm so pleased that the government of President Buhari has chosen the path of the people, to stand with the people, to be with the people. We are not an elite government. We have chosen to take the side of the people and will remain taking the side of the people of this country. Those who keep reminding us of the good old days are probably suffering from memory loss. We are in the best times possible today.
But the task of nation building is never done. The builders confront new problems every day.
Every Nigerian who is prepared to work hard ought to have something to do.
What makes Africa work is what will work anywhere else. And I think that's been tried and demonstrated in so many African economies.
Day by day, step by step, we're going in the right direction.
In any event, all the problems that our people have will be solved by men and women, not spirits. We are those men and women. History and providence have put us in these positions at this time.
This century is the Africa century, where Africa will either be the world's nemesis or it will be its savior. 3 things will decide. 1, leadership. 2, leadership. 3, leadership. We are in the best time in the history of mankind. Let nobody tell you about the good old days.
As the rich and powerful claim legal rights before the courts, we must remember that the poor also deserve social and economic justice. We cannot take our diversity for granted. The fullness of our strength lies in that diversity. And we must wield that diversity not as a divisive tool, but instead as a binding agent.
In our political and democratic evolution, a viral labor is a sine qua non. In the interest of the men and women of our society who need a voice to speak loudly against economic or social injustice, labor must remain united.
I think that the main lesson that Africa has learned and that African governments have learned is that there is no African exceptionalism. What makes Africa work is what makes economies work anywhere. Honest visionary leadership and good governance, letting the private sector and markets lead, diversification from resource-based revenues, and developing the human potential that is so available within the continent.
If I were a betting man and I was asked, will Africa fly or fail? I'll surely put my money on Africa flying.
Never again should we allow a where people take the resources of this country and steal the resources of this country, use the resources against the people, and at the same time, they want to continue in rulership. Our focus is on the welfare, prosperity, and well-being of our people.
I'm so pleased that
The government of President Buhari has chosen the path of the people, to stand with the people, to be with the people. We are not an elite government. We have chosen to take the side of the people and will remain taking the side of the people of this country.
Those who keep reminding us of the good old days are probably suffering from memory loss. We are in the best times possible today.
But the task of nation building is never done. The builders confront new problems every day.
Every Nigerian who is prepared to work hard ought to have something to do. What makes Africa work is what will work anywhere else. And I think that's been tried and demonstrated in so many African economies.
Day by day, step by step, we're going in the right direction.
In any event, all the problems that our people have will be solved by men and women, not spirits. We are those men and women. History and providence have put us in these positions at this time. This century is the Africa century, where Africa will either be the world's nemesis or it will be its savior. Three things will decide. 1, leadership. 2, leadership. 3, leadership.
We are in the best times in the history of mankind. Let nobody tell you about the good old days.
As the rich and powerful claim legal rights before the courts, we must remember that the poor also deserve social and economic justice. We cannot take our diversity for granted. The fullness of our strength lies in that diversity. And we must wield that diversity not as a divisive tool, but instead as a binding agent.
In our political and democratic evolution, a viral labor is a sine qua non. In the interest of the men and women of our society who need a voice to speak loudly against economic or social injustice, labor must remain united.
I think that the main lesson that Africa has learned and that African governments have learned is that there is no African exceptionalism. What makes Africa work is what makes economies work anywhere. Honest visionary leadership and good governance, letting the private sector and markets lead, diversification from resource-based revenues, and developing the human potential that is so available within the continent.
If I were a betting man and I was asked, will Africa fly or fail? I'd surely put my money on Africa flying.
Never again should we allow a system where people take the resources of this country and steal the resources of this country, use the resources against the people, and at the same time, they want to continue in rulership.
Our focus is on the welfare, prosperity, and well-being of our people.
I'm so pleased that the government of President Buhari has chosen the path of the people, to stand with the people, to be with the people. We are not an elite government. We have chosen to take the side of the people and will remain taking the side of the people of this country.
Those who keep reminding us of the good old days are probably suffering from memory loss. We are in the best times possible today.
But the task of nation building is never done. The builders confront new problems every day.
Every Nigerian who is prepared to work hard ought to have something to do. What makes Africa work is what will work anywhere else. And I think that's been tried and demonstrated in so many African economies.
Day by day, step by step, we're going in the right direction.
In any event, all the problems that our people have will be solved by men and women, not spirits. We are those men and women. History and providence have put us in these positions at this time. This century is the Africa century, where Africa will either be the world's nemesis or it will be its savior. Three things will decide. 1, leadership. 2, leadership. 3, leadership.
We are in the best times in the history of mankind. Let nobody tell you about the good old days.
As the rich and powerful claim legal rights before the courts, we must remember that the poor also deserve social and and economic justice. We cannot take our diversity for granted. The fullness of our strength lies in that diversity. And we must wield that diversity not as a divisive tool, but instead as a binding agent.
In our political and democratic evolution, a viral labor is a sine qua non. In the interest of the men and women of our society who need a voice to speak loudly against economic or social injustice, labor must remain united.
I think that the main lesson that Africa has learned and that African governments have learned is that there is no African exceptionalism. What makes Africa work is what makes economies work anywhere. Honest visionary leadership and good governance, letting the private sector and markets lead, diversification from resource-based revenues, and developing the human potential that is so available within the continent.
If I were a betting man and I was asked, will Africa fly or fail? I'll surely put my money on Africa flying.
Never again should we allow a system where people take the resources of this country and steal the resources of this country, use the resources against the people, and at the same time, they want to continue in rulership. Our focus is on the welfare, prosperity, and well-being of our people.
I'm so pleased that the government of President Buhari has chosen the path of the people, to stand with the people, to be with the people. We are not an elite government. We have chosen to take the side of the people and will remain taking the side of the people of this country.
Those who keep reminding us of the good old days are probably suffering from memory loss. We are in the best times possible today.
But the task of nation building is never done. The builders confront new problems every day.
Every Nigerian who is prepared to work hard ought to have something to do.
What makes Africa work is what will work anywhere else. And I think that's been tried and demonstrated in so many African economies.
Day by day, step by step, we're going in the right direction.
In any event, all the problems that our people have will be solved by men and women, not spirits. We are those men and women. History and providence have put us in these positions at this time.
This century is the Africa century, where Africa will either be the world's nemesis or it will be its savior. Three things will decide. 1, leadership. 2, leadership. 3, leadership.
We are in the best times in the history of mankind. Let nobody tell you about the good old days.
As the rich and powerful claim legal rights before the courts, we must remember that the poor also deserve social and economic justice. We cannot take our diversity for granted. The fullness of our strength lies in that diversity. And we must wield that diversity not as a divisive tool, but instead as a binding agent.
In our political and democratic evolution, a viral labor is a sine qua non. In the interest of the men and women of our society who need a voice to speak loudly against economic or social injustice, labor must remain united.
I think that the main lesson that Africa has learned and that African governments have learned is that there is no African exceptionalism. What makes Africa work is what makes economies work anywhere. Honest visionary leadership and good governance, letting the private sector and markets lead, diversification from resource-based revenues, and developing the human potential that is so available within the continent.
If I were a betting man and I was asked, will Africa fly or fail? I'll surely put my money on Africa flying.
Never again should we allow a system where people take the resources of this country and steal the resources of this country, use the resources against the people, and at the same time, they want to continue in rulership. Our focus is on the welfare, prosperity, and well-being of our people.
I'm so pleased that the government of President Buhari has chosen the path of the people, to stand with the people, to be with the people. We are not an elite government. We have chosen to take the side of the people and will remain taking the side
of the people of this country. Those who keep reminding us of the good old days are probably suffering from memory loss. We are in the best times possible today.
But the task of nation building is never done. The builders confront new problems every day.
Every Nigerian who is prepared to work hard ought to have something to do. What makes Africa work is what will work anywhere else. And I think that has been tried and demonstrated in so many African economies.
Day by day, step by step, we're going in the right direction.
In any event, all the problems that our people have will be solved by men and women, not spirits. We are those men and women. History and providence have put us in these positions at this time. This century is the Africa century, where Africa will either be the world's nemesis or it will be its savior. Three things will decide. 1, leadership. 2, leadership. 3, leadership.
We are in the best times in the history of mankind. Let nobody tell you about the good old days.
As the rich and powerful claim legal rights before the courts, we must remember that the poor also deserve social and economic justice. We cannot take our diversity for granted. The fullness of our strength lies in that diversity. And we must wield that diversity not as a divisive tool, but instead as a binding agent.
In our political and democratic evolution, a viral labor is a sine qua non. In the interest of the men and women of our society who need a voice to speak loudly against economic or social injustice, labor must remain united.
I think that the main lesson that Africa has learned and that African governments have learned is that there is no African exceptionalism. What makes Africa work is what makes economies work anywhere. Honest, visionary leadership and good governance, letting the private sector and markets lead, diversification from resource-based revenues, and developing the human potential that is so available within the continent.
If I were a betting man and I was asked, will Africa fly or fail? I'll surely put my money on Africa flying.
Never again should we allow a system where people take the resources of this country and steal the resources of this country, use the resources against the people, and at the same time, they want to continue in rulership. Our focus is on the welfare, prosperity, and well-being of our people.
I'm so pleased that the government of President Buhari has chosen the path of the people, to stand with the people, to be with the people. We are not an elite government. We have chosen to take the side of the people and will remain taking the side of the people of this country.
Those who keep reminding us of the good old days are probably suffering from memory loss. We are in the best times possible today.
But the task of nation building is never done. The builders confront new problems every day.
Every Nigerian who is prepared to work hard ought to have something to do. What makes Africa work is what will work anywhere else. And I think that has been tried and demonstrated in so many African economies.
Day by day, step by step, we're going in the right direction.
In any event, all the problems that our people have will be solved by men and women, not spirits. We are those men and women. History and providence have put us in these positions at this time.
This century is the Africa century, where Africa will either be the world's nemesis or it will be its savior. Three things will decide. 1, leadership. 2, leadership. 3, leadership.
We are in the best times in the history of mankind. Let nobody tell you about the good old days.
As the rich and powerful claim legal rights before the courts, we must remember that the poor also deserve social and economic justice. We cannot take our diversity for granted. The fullness of our strength lies in that diversity. And we must wield that diversity not as a divisive tool, but instead as a binding agent.
In our political and democratic evolution, a viral labor is a sine qua non. In the interest of the men and women of our society who need a voice to speak loudly against economic or social injustice, labor must remain united.
I think that the main lesson that Africa has learned and that African governments have learned is that there is no African exceptionalism. What makes Africa work is what makes economies work anywhere. Honest visionary leadership and good governance, letting the private sector and markets lead, diversification from resource-based revenues, and developing the human potential that is so available within the continent.
If I were a betting man and I was asked, will Africa fly or fail? I'll surely put my money on Africa flying.
Never again should we allow a system where people take the resources of this country and steal the resources of this country, use the resources against the people, and at the same time, they want to continue in rulership. Our focus is on the welfare, prosperity, and well-being of our people.
I'm so pleased that the government of President Buhari has chosen the path of the people, to stand with the people, to be with the people.
This last one, the loud past the first one.
It was a push-up.
Make it still go.
Not loud now.
Maybe he will say. The last one loud. Past the other, the first one.
Take on, just take on.
Bro, is this camera view good? I think one should be in the center looking at everybody, right?
Is that?
Where
No.
did they place the camera? Mr. Nuru?
This is one of the cameras.
This one is the second camera.
Just see the second one for the crowd.
The
one
first
will be
for
for
you.
Are you okay with the location?
Yeah, I'm okay with everything. This one, where they pick people. This is.
You want to tell us what to do about it?
Okay.
next to him, and I can tell you ain't happy. You'd rather be on the side of the club, balling out with a like me. I can see you imagining those thoughts in your head by the way you're staring. I'll help your fantasies come true. All you gotta do is look me in my eye. 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 I'll take you to that place. All I ask is look me in my eyes. Look me in my eye. Look me in my eye. Look me in my eye. Baby, look me in my eye. Look me in my eye. Look me in my eye.
What it do, mama? They call me Young Blast, and I couldn't help but stop soon as I rolled past you. I see your pretty face, you ain't supposed to frown. Don't need your man anyway, I'ma hold you down. And I don't brag, but he ain't fly like me. He ain't loyal by your side on a ride like me. Now look around, ain't no guys like me. You can look into my eyes and say, I'm a player for real.
Look me in my eye. 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 I'll take you to that place. All I ask is look me in my eyes. Look me in my eye. Look me in my eye. Look me in my eye. Baby, look me in my eye. Look me in my eye. Look me in my eye.
I see you beating mama, you know I'm watching you. You say you want me, so tell me what's stopping you. I'm all the things that your man can't be. Down to do it all, fulfill your fantasy. I need a freak down the late night creep. Hop up in the coupe, then we cruise through the streets. Ride to the telly, then it's straight to the suite. Turn the lights low, and then it's straight to the sheets. Your man broken, you don't need that mess. All I need is one night, let me ease that stress. Here running game, I ain't got a lot of you. Acorn, say the hood, tell her what she got to do.
Look me in my eye. 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 I'll take you to that place. All I ask is look me in my eyes. Look me in my eye. Look me in my eye. Look me in my eye. Baby, look me in my eye.
Lonely hours, lonely days. Never meant to drive you away from me. I should have listened to you, lady, and what you had to say. If only. I never knew how much you feel for somebody after you let them go, let them go. And you find out that it's too late to let your feelings show, feelings show. And even though I've done you so wrong, don't you know, like I know, baby. You see, you got the key to my heart, girl. Allow me to take all my feelings apart. 'Cause when you said you had to leave, had to go away, you closed the door on me. You threw away the key. Starting over, I'm feeling down. Still can't believe that you're not around. I should have been there for you, baby, but now I'm crying on this melody tonight, yeah. I didn't realize that there's no other remedy to numb this pain, numb this pain. But if you come back in my life, then maybe I can start to live again, live again. And even though you're being so strong, don't you know, like I know, baby. You see, you got the key to my heart. I'm not going to take all my feelings apart. 'Cause when you said you had to leave, had to go away, you closed the door.
So many things that I wanna say, so I got a little wild. I don't wanna lose your love tonight. I don't wanna lose your love tonight. Yeah. Ain't got many friends I can talk to. Nowhere to run when I'm in trouble. You know I would do anything for you. We don't have to keep it undercover. I don't wanna lose your love tonight. I don't wanna lose your love tonight. Come on. L-O-V-E-Y-O-U. I ain't trying to lose your love tonight. I just wanna make you feel alright. M-O-E-Y-O-U. I'm just hoping you can spend the night. Kiss you, love you, hold you tight. Ever since you came back around the way, I ain't trying to be a player. So many things that I wanna say. You know I got a little wiser. I don't wanna lose your love tonight. I don't wanna lose your love tonight. Ain't no need to leave, girl, please close the door. And don't forget what I told you. I wanna do you right, cause I did you wrong. Another shoulder to cry upon. I don't wanna lose your love tonight. I don't wanna lose your love tonight. Come on. M-O-E-Y-O-U. I ain't tryna lose your love tonight. I just wanna make you feel alright. M-O-E-Y-O-U. I'm just hoping you can spend the night. Kiss you, love, hold you tight.
Tell me what you want from me.
This DJ is bad. DJ, no, man.
Tell me what you want from me. Take a look at what you see. Let me know if it's right here. Something you can have for years.
Now Mace be the man, wanna see you doing good. I don't wanna get rich, leave you in the hood. Girl, in my eyes, you the baddest. The reason why I love you, you don't like me cause my status. I don't wanna see you with a carriage, living average. I wanna do my thing so we be established. And I don't want you rocking them fabrics. Girl, I wanna give you carriage till you feel you a rabbit. Anything in your path, once you can have. Walk through the mall, if you like it, you could grab. Total it all up and put it on my tab. And then tell your friends all the fun you had.
Tell me what you want from me. Take a look at what you see. Let me know if it's right here. Something you can have for years. Tell me what you want from me. Take a look at what you see. Let me know if it's right here. Something you can have for years.
Hey mama, won't you come here to Popeye? You don't like the way his tatas looking at Scott-Eye. In the 600, ain't no smoking cigar. Come over here, I think I see your baby father. Here go the number to my casa. If you in a rush, you call me mañana. Whatever you need, girlfriend, I got the whole enchilada. Just the way you like it, Mace gon' do you proper. Girl, I can tell you was meant for me. I can tell by the way you was sent to me. While I'm on tour trying to make them centuries. And they ask who you man, you better mention me. If you don't, you know you got a problem. Said you want no beef, girlfriend, don't start now. And it just so happened that I'm seeing cat, cause you messed up a lot just trying to be fast. And I ain't gonna ask who smashed the E-class. Pull up to the rib with the whole front crash. Now you wanna laugh? Good thing that's the past. If you ever lie again, girl, that'll be your last.
Tell me what you want from me. Take a look at what you see. Let me know if it's right here. Something you can have for years. Tell me what you want from me. Take a look at what you see. Let me know if it's right here. Something you can have for years.
And the more you treat me, boy, I adore you. That's why I don't mind doing you.
she was on her creep. Ooh, she was sexing everyone but me. This is why we could never be. You remind me of the girl that I was with. Yeah. See her face whenever I look at you. Won't believe all of the things she put me through. This is why I just can't get by. Baby, I just don't get it. Do you enjoy being hurt? I know you smell the perfume, the makeup on his shirt. You don't believe his stories. You know that there are lies. Bad as you are, you stick around, and I just don't know why. If I was your man, baby, you never worry about what I do. I'd be coming home back to you every night, doing you right. You're the type of woman deserve good fame. Fist full of diamonds, a handful of rain. Baby, you're a star. I just wanna show you you are. You should let me love you. Let me be the one to give you everything you want and need. A baby, good love and protection. Make me your selection. Show you the way love's supposed to be. Baby, you should let me love you, love you, love you, love you. Yeah. Listen, your true beauty's description looks so good that it hurts. You're a dime plus 99, and it's a shame. Don't even know what you're worth. Everywhere you go, they stop and stare, 'cause you're bad and it shows. From your head to your toes, out of control. Baby, you know. If I was your man, baby, you never worry about what I do. I'd be coming home back to you every night, doing you right. You're the type of woman deserves good things. This for the diamonds, a handful of rings. Baby, you're a star. I just wanna show you you are. You should let me love you. Let me be the one to give you everything you want and need. Oh, baby, good love and protection. Oh, make me your selection. Show you the way love's supposed to be. Baby, you should let me. My life will never be the same. 'Cause girl, you came and changed the way I walk, the way I talk. I cannot explain the things I feel for you. But girl, you know it's true. Stay with me, fulfill my dreams, and I'll be all you need. Feels so right, girl. You're the perfect all my life. All my life. Feels like I need love. See, you can that's right now. Come on, girl. My girl, you know you did. Everything I know you. Every step we can find someone like you.
you looked at me, pulling up your sleeve so I could see the roly vein. So you later in the corner booth, raising up a toast so I would notice you, but you're hard to miss. Think you ought to know, doesn't matter if you're balling out of control. All that I see is that you treat me right. Give me all the things I need that money can buy. Yeah, think you gotta keep me as you don't think I'm gonna spend your cash out. Even if you were broke, my love don't cost a thing. Think I'm gonna drive your Benz, I don't. If I wanna floss, I got my own. Even if you were broke, my love don't cost a thing. When I took a chance, thought you'd understand. Baby, credit cards aren't romance. So you're trying to buy what's already yours. What I need from you is
Good morning, Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. May I respectfully ask that we be seated as we commence this event today. Thank you. I see there's some reunions going on, and that's a fantastic thing. The press people will not get the best of me today. Okay, so I welcome you all, and as we begin, may I respectfully ask that we rise for the national anthem. Please rise. Thank you. To serve our fatherland with love and strength and faith. The labor of our heroes past shall never be in vain. To serve with heart and might, one nation bound in freedom, peace and unity. Thank you. Please be seated. The honorable ministers and members of the Federal Executive Council here present, National Assembly members, former and present, here present, the state governors and deputies here present, former ministers and governors also here present, directors and heads of ministries, departments, and agencies of government, the members of the diplomatic corps, the traditional rulers also present, our lead presenter and panelists, invited guests, members of the press, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I say good morning to you again, and I welcome you to the first in a series of public lectures in honor of Professor Yemi Osinbajo, GCON, the Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, organized by the Building the Future Forum. Now, I'd like to say that he's not privy to this event. Maybe someone must have gossiped about it to him, who knows? But this is actually done in his honor. The Building the Future Forum is a nonpartisan group of professionals and active citizens from diverse backgrounds who share a passion for Nigeria and nation building. The aim of the forum is to promote constructive dialogue, the free exchange of ideas, mutual learning, peaceful coexistence, and active citizenship. The theme for this first in this series is building the future of Nigeria through enterprise and innovation. And trust me, it will be a very interesting time out we have here today. A great engaging time, and of course, a learning moment for us all as we celebrate the Vice President at 64. We say a very happy birthday to Vice President Professor Yemi Oshibajo. My name is Inya Ode, and I'll be taking you through the events for this morning. And we hope to make it as swift as possible because we know that everyone must be engaged in other events one way or the other. Well, to kickstart the event, let me respectfully invite for his opening remarks the Action Governor of Nasarawa State, His Excellency Engineer Abdullahi A. Sule, to share some thoughts with us as he makes us welcome. You're welcome, sir. Please, a round of applause for him as he makes his way up here. Thank you so much. You're welcome, Your Excellency. Sorry for the long journey.
That's all right. That's all right. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Your Excellency, the Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, SAN, GCON, Madugun Jihar Nasarawa. Distinguished senators and members of the National Assembly who are here, honorable ministers and former ministers, especially my dear sister, former Minister Aisha Abubakar, who I have just seen after a very, very long time. Distinguished invited guests, members of the press, ladies and gentlemen. Let me begin by thanking you all for kindly gracing this event with your august presence. We all know why we're here. We have gathered today in honor of a most worthy Nigerian, His Excellency the Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, on the occasion of the 65th in our ability as Nigerians to solve our problems. Let me digress at this moment to say, for me, one of the most important reasons why I'm here is all these values and also the amount of patience that this gentleman has. Every time we are having the next meeting, for instance, and I see the amount of patience this gentleman has, he's sitting down there listening to every one of us to make sense or to make no sense. And he's still waiting and hearing, and at the end of the day, he carries on to the next. For this, I say happy birthday, sir. Stemming from this understanding of the Vice President's character, the organizers of this event have put together this public lecture to commemorate his birthday. The Building the Future Forum is a non-partisan coalition of Nigerians resident at home and abroad and drawn from diverse backgrounds who share the Vice President's passion for Nigeria and nation building. They have chosen this format of event because they believe that it illustrates the Vice President's belief in the free exchange of ideas through constructive dialogue and the power of deep creative thinking to share the destiny of our nation. The theme of this lecture, Building the Future of Nigeria Through Enterprise and Innovation, is also very significant. The Vice President is a very strong advocate of enterprise and innovation and has been championing the role of young Nigerians in driving the revolution that will
Thank you so much, Your Excellency. We appreciate it. Let's just move on very swiftly to welcome our online audience. This event is actually online. It's streamed live on various platforms, and we welcome the online audience wherever you are watching and listening. We appreciate it. Well, the governor of Nasarawa State has mentioned quite a lot of things about the Vice President. But, you know, just coming in to the hall this morning, one of the quotes by the Vice President says, "Nations are not built by politicians or their opinions, but by men and women in business, the professions, and commerce." And that's something that we'll definitely focus on a bit later as we get into our panel conversation. Very swiftly, may I invite Nuruddin to play the video that will give us an insight to what we are doing here and indeed who this man is. Nuruddin, take it away.
The world's nemesis, or it will be its savior. Three things will decide. 1, leadership. 2, leadership. 3, leadership.
We are in the best times in the history of mankind. Let nobody tell you about the good old days.
As the rich and powerful claim legal rights before the courts, we must remember that the poor also deserve social and economic justice. We cannot take our diversity for granted. The fullness of our strength lies in that diversity. And we must wield that diversity not as a divisive tool, but instead as a binding agent.
In our political and democratic evolution, a viral labor is a sine qua non. In the interest of the men and women of our society who need a voice to speak loudly against economic or social injustice, labor must remain united.
I think that the main lesson that Africa has learned and that African governments have learned is that there is no African exceptionalism. What makes Africa work is what makes economies work anywhere. Honest visionary leadership and good governance, letting the private sector and markets lead, diversification from resource-based revenues, and developing the human potential that is so available within the continent.
If I were a betting man and I was asked, will Africa fly or fail? I'll surely put my money on Africa flying.
Never again should we allow a system where people take the resources of this country and steal the resources of this country, use the resources against the people, and at the same time, they want to continue in rulership. Our focus is on the welfare, prosperity, and well-being of our people.
I'm so
pleased that the government of President Buhari has chosen the path of the people, to stand with the people, to be with the people. We are not an elite government. We have chosen to take the side of the people and will remain taking the side of the people of this country. Those who keep reminding us of the good old days are probably suffering from memory loss. We are in the best times possible today.
But the task of nation building is never done. The builders confront new problems every day.
Every Nigerian who is prepared to work hard ought to have something to do.
What makes Africa work is what will work anywhere else. And I think that's been tried and demonstrated in so many African economies.
Day by day, step by step, we're going in the right direction.
In any event, all the problems that our people have will be solved by men and women, not spirits. We are those men and women. History and providence have put us in these positions at this time.
Deserve a round of applause. The man at 64. Congratulations to you, Your Excellency. All right, so we are to have a spoken word presentation by Mariam Bukar Hassan. I hope Mariam is in the hall right now to take us through this. She's also known as Alhan Islam, and she is a spoken word artist from Borno State. And well, we just hope she can make. Mariam, any indication of you being here? All right, so I'll just wait for a cue and know what exactly to do. If Mariam makes it, great. Okay, so we'll give her some time, and I'm sure she will eventually make it to the hall this morning. But moving on with the program and the event for today, a very special one at that, as we celebrate the Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria at 64. As I said earlier, well, he's not privy to this, but this is happening in his honor, and I'm sure everyone who's seated here is glad to be part of this. So let me make room for Mariam Bukar Hassan as she takes us through a spoken word presentation. Please, a round of applause for her. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Mariam Bukar Hassan, known as Alhan Islam. Sorry, I'm trying to catch my breath. So the piece I have today speaks on peace and unity as a sustainable tool for the development of the country. While we reflect on our past glories, to speak about building the future of my country is to conjure up the ghost of a warrior, an Iroka tree that stood tall in the forest, survived the axe, with broken branches that answers questions of vulnerability, with falling dried leaves, creating a pathway leading to my heart, me, a citizen of a country whose hope lingers like the life of an antelope, who wakes up every morning with its heart beating out its chest because it knows there is a lion out there it must outrun, else it becomes prey. Praying every day that somehow we see the light and hope for the nation. To speak about building the future of my country is to recall handshakes between the Princess Alexandra and Sir Tafawa Balewa that holds promises of generations, aspirations of what it is for a dream to come true, an answered prayer. To speak about building the future of my country is to revisit the selfless words of Sir Nnamdi Azikiwe in 1959, where he said, For 25 years of my life, I have fought for the freedom of Nigeria. Nigeria will obtain independence on October 1st, 1960, and it makes no difference who becomes prime minister, whether Tafawa Balewa, Awolowo, or myself. So long as Nigeria is free, I will be satisfied. To speak about building the future of my country is to celebrate the largest river in West Africa, the River Niger, that holds the name Nigeria at its core. To speak about building the future of my country is to acknowledge the resilience of the youth. So when a youth says, I love my country, but, because, words signifying doubt yet serving as a seal to conviction, like, but I forgive my kinsmen, and for my country I will represent, like, you broke my heart, but I still love you. With all the pieces like that on the map of my country that connects us, yet most mistake it for scars, causing upheaval, digging up stories of injuries like, but I wish to be taken back to the times when the 521 ethnic groups, the over 600 distinct languages represented love and diversity, when animosity had no room, so we collectively put it out of the house like, but I wish to be taken back to the times of the pyramids that was made up of the promise that earth did keep to us and ours flourished with life, that skyrocketed our economy, the groundnut pyramids. When the pyramids in Egypt stood no chance, had nothing to show but the weight of the dead on a living land. Our ancestors are gone, but we are not. Their time is over, but ours is now. We cannot go back to days of glory, but we can conjure up its ghost for inspiration. We can resent the government. We can resent this administration and the one to come. But if we do not engage in the process, hold ourselves accountable, Nigeria will never be whole again. As I will always say, government cannot do it alone. It is an entity. Without all of us, it becomes an empty thing. And only through partnerships and collaborative relationships can there be an accelerated progress towards Nigeria's development. So today, I borrow the words of the Egyptians where they say, everything dies, but time fears the pyramids. You and I are the pyramids. So show up in your grace, in your might, in your excellence, in all that you are at the core of your existence. Show up for your country, because it is time to build the future of Nigeria. Thank you.
I think she deserves more of that applause. She does. Wow, amazing. If we don't join hands together to build this entity, it will become an empty thing. Words on marble. Please, another round of applause for her. Thank you. Amazing. And I believe that just kickstarts everything that we are doing right now. Building the future of Nigeria through enterprise and innovation. Well, in case you didn't know, today is March 8th. It's the Vice President's birthday, and it's also another very special day. Do I have any women in the house? Ah, no women. It's International Women's Day. So happy International Women's Day to everyone who is here and those who are outside. And indeed, International Women's Day today focuses on women in leadership. And I know the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, is definitely a strong he for she and is very concerned about issues that concern women. So we celebrate him on his birthday today. Right, so moving on to our lead presentation for today. And I'd like to introduce our lead presenter, who is the Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of Financial Derivatives Company Limited in Lagos. Now, he has more than 30 years experience as an economist, as a banker, and a financial analyst. He's a chartered member of the Institute of Bankers of England and Wales and a fellow of the Nigerian Institute of Bankers. He's also a member of the Presidential Economic Advisory Council. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, join me as we make welcome Mr. Bismarck J. Rewane, who will be joining us virtually. Please, a round of applause. I'm sure we'll get on to him real soon. There he is. Great to see you, sir. Over.
Thank you. Good morning. Distinguished ladies, gentlemen, were set. Okay. WAEC, so on. They would say you must answer question 1 in section A and 4 questions in section B. If you get everything in question 1, you have achieved the necessary condition. You must, at the same time, pass or score highly in section B. The combined marks is what guarantees you success. Therefore, success in section A is necessary. But success in section B is sufficient. Therefore, to be innovative, entrepreneurial, and creative is necessary, but does not guarantee success. The sufficient component of successful outcomes is application of these qualities and making an impact on society. Therefore, as we analyze the context of the career and life story, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, we shall do justice not only to his capacity, but also his ability to deliver talent. The other concept in economics, which is differentiating between a stock of wealth and a flow of wealth, is totally inexplicably linked, but people misconstrue it all the time. And like I said here, many Nigerians at all levels of policy making and corporate world do not understand or willfully misunderstand. Please note my words. Many of them do not understand, and others willfully understand it. A stock is a fixed amount. It could be an asset, building, bonds, and everything. A flow, on the other hand, is future unexpected revenues that can be used or even as collateral for borrowings. You hear many people say, if we recover all the stolen assets and so on in Nigeria, the problems are in Nigeria will be solved. It is necessary to recover stolen assets, but it is not sufficient to solve Nigeria's money. Because you would, by making that statement, you are assuming that the Nigerian problem is that of revenue, while in fact, it is revenue plus money. I thought I should make this clarification as a footnote to the analysis of innovation and entrepreneurship as a way forward for Nigeria, and relate the same to the quality accomplishment potential of the celebrant today. As I worked on developing this keynote address, I looked at a few notable events people associated with them. Some prominent Nigerians, and with all due respect to all of them, that were born in March. They include, but are not limited to, 1, Chief Jeremiah Obafemi Awolowo, March 16th, who happens to be the father-in-law of the celebrant. Major General Overseer of the Team Mission, March. Otumba Femi Balogun, March 9th. He also went to Kobe College and London School of Economics, like the celebrant. Then I stumbled into General Olusegun Obasanjo, March 5th, 1937. And General Shehu Yar'Adua, born on the same General Olusegun, March 5th, 1943. There are others, Popular, many others. Was the independence of the Gold Coast, known as Ghana today. I want to spend a few minutes to tell you why Ghana and its development are relevant to Nigeria. Africa's greatest leader of all times was the leader of Kwame Osagyefo Nkrumah. Ghana gained independence in March 1967. Nigeria gained independence 3 years later in 1960. Nigeria military coup was January 1996. Ghanaian military coup was only 4 weeks apart. Nigeria had a civil war in 1970. Ghana had successive coups before the rolling shock treatment with a major halt to statewide corruption. Ghana returned to civil rule before Nigeria. Nigeria followed. In Ghana, an incumbent, an opposition party won and beat an incumbent. Nigeria followed. But get it, the similarities end. Ghanaian institutions are strong, well entrenched. Its judiciary, central bank, its police force, like the University of Legon, with an economy smaller in size than Lagos State and a population of 31.5 million, and not as endowed as Nigeria, Ghana enjoys a life expectancy 11 years higher than that of Nigeria, while Nigeria is 54. Its literacy rate is 79 compared to Nigeria's 59.6. Its literacy rate is 79 compared to Nigeria's 59.6. Nigerians today rush to Ghana for medical tourism, today for treatments for complications they would otherwise go to India, Dubai, and other places. Therefore, Ghana is a rival, role model, and smaller neighbor. Ghana's independence coming 2 days before our settlement was born gives us inspiration that strong institutions are what Africa requires more. Remember, Barack Obama in his message delivered in Accra said clearly that Africa needs strong institutions and strong leaders. Recently, Stephen Morris, popularly known as Stevie Wonder, tweeted that he was relocating from the US to Ghana. The key of today being innovation, creativity, and entrepreneurship as guiding the future and destiny of the Nigerian economic transformation. I interacted with the celebrant in 2016 and 2017 when he called for presentation. We consulted with him, analyzing the minimum wage in what was an impossible deadline, which we met miraculously. This reminds me of the words of John Newton's law. There are three categories: those who wonder what just happened. I repeat, John Newton's law says that there are those who make things happen, usually 1% of the population. Those who watch things, usually about 3 or 4% of the population. And those who wonder what just happened is about 96% of the population. I can say categorically that Professor Shibajo made things happen when he was lecturing at the University of Lagos. He made things happen in Lagos State, where he served as the Attorney General and Judicial Reform, including Judicial Reform. He made things happen at Citibank, Nigeria, where he was on the board. He also made things happen as a clergyman. He also tried to make things happen in a difficult and treacherous terrain of Nigerian politics. I witnessed him as a policymaker, a lecturer, man, and to a good friend of mine. I've also watched closely the very invention of the moving bottleneck in the way of business in Nigeria, with the Presidential Enabling Business Environment Council initiatives. I worked closely with him, Dr. Jumoke Oduwole, and our team, and I must say it was very work with government agencies that had the mentality of achieving results at minimal costs. In our interactions with the Vice President, we came away with the impression that his training as a professor of law, based on evidence, makes him ask questions which, after you answer them, either make you think deeper or look foolish, except that more work needs to be done. His recent remarks on the prohibition of cryptocurrencies said, and I quote, that we must not regulate fear, but with knowledge, was another defining moment of respect for a mind that comes across without ruffling feathers, but clearly and distinctly about the honest and efficient truth, and at times, according to Al Gore, the inconvenient truth. I remember once again, under a student stewardship, the adoption of the INE, which was a major achievement stabilizing the time of turbulence during the 2016-17 recession. Nigeria today has made achievement ease of doing metrics. Nigeria is the leading country according to the economic pocketbook figures. 39.9% either as nascent or direct enterprise. The issue, however, is not whether Nigeria has made some successes, but compared to its potential, Nigeria is still a laggard and is a weak running partner at this point in time. Therefore, we have our work cut out for us as this generation. We have our work cut out for us as leaders, both in the private and public sector. And if we are going to achieve inclusive growth, we need to attract domestic and with its attendant achieve a GDP level of $1.5 billion by 2030, when our population could be as much as 250 million, if not 300 million. We need to grow the economy at least 7 to 8% a year for 5 to 10 years based on an investment-led strategy. If we fail to do this, very problems of multidimensional poverty, debt, and insecurity may consume us in the next decade. We need intellectual depth of academics, like Professor Yemi Shibajo. We need God-fearing clerics, like Professor Olu. We need people in public life, and more than anything else, like him, who can make the private sector feel at ease in the policy-making community. Once again, I say happy birthday to the leader of the people, societies, and enterprises. I will close this remarks with a popular Shakespearean quote that says, "Some are born great, Some achieve greatness in a lifetime, others have greatness thrust on them. Where you place Professor Yemi Ochibajo will depend on your judgment of his numerous accomplishments and contributions to the Nigerian project, which I say remains work in progress. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you so much. Please let's give him another round of applause, Mr. Bismarck J. Rewani. We appreciate you, sir, for the address and indeed emphasizing on our theme of building the future of Nigeria through enterprise and innovation. Well, I'd like to welcome all those who joined us at this point. Quite a number of people made their way in. We welcome you and you stand recognized. We also want to recognize the chairman of the Nigeria Governors Forum, the governor of Ekiti State, Governor Kayode Fayemi. Welcome, sir. We welcome you and welcome every other person who has joined in today. Okay, so we get into the program and move on very, very swiftly to our panel conversation. I'm sure people would have questions or comments to make, and we'll give a chance for all that to happen as the program continues. But let me invite my panelists who will be joining us for this very interesting conversation on this theme, and indeed what hope there is for Nigeria and Nigerians, especially the young population. Well, I'd like to tell you a little bit about them as I invite them to the stage. Dr. George Nwangu is our first panelist, and he has over 21 years experience as a lawyer, spanning various aspects of legal practice and academia in Nigeria and the United Kingdom. He's also a chartered accountant, he's a finance professional, and has worked as an international consultant to multilateral institutions in the fields of infrastructure, utilities, regulation, and finance, especially in the area of private finance for infrastructure. Now, he was a DFID and World Bank funded consultant with the Bureau of Public Enterprises, where he held a lot of posts. He was the environmental legal advisor, infrastructure legal advisor, special assistant to the Director General on legal and strategy issues, and the head of strategy and multilateral relations. He was a PPP coordinator at the Federal Ministry of Finance and also special advisor to the coordinating Minister of the Economy and Honorable Minister of Finance on infrastructure, finance, and PPPs. Well, to date, Dr. Nwangu has participated in over 100 privatization and PPP transactions worth over $20 billion US, either advising the public sector or private sector or investing directly. Dr. Nwangu is currently a research fellow at the Department of Mercantile Law, Stellenbosch University, and also honorary senior research associate in the Bartlett School of Construction and Project Management, University College London. He's an alumnus of the University of Lagos, Nigeria, University College London, and the University of Hull, and the University of Oxford. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, join me to welcome Dr. George Nwangu to the podium. Welcome, sir. Now, our second panelist is an entrepreneur and a business consultant, and she operates in the food and beverage industry with a specialty in brand development. She's the founder and CEO of Waffle Stop, a breakfast and brunch restaurant with establishments in Abuja and Kano. Outside the business world, she has a deep-rooted passion for youth and women empowerment, and ever so often lends her voice to activities aimed at driving youth-led initiatives forward, while also encouraging more participation from women on national issues. She's dedicated to using her experiences in business and social impact to inspire young people, especially other northern Nigerian women such as herself, to make positive impact of their own. She believes that inclusion and equality are necessary in the creation of an enabling, innovative, and forward-thinking society that will foster our ideas in the hope of achieving a sustainable Nigeria. Ladies and gentlemen, join me to welcome Aisha Shuaibu to the stage. Welcome, Aisha. Great to have you here. Now, our third panelist will be joining us online. I hope Sim Shagaya is there. But Sim is a renowned Nigerian entrepreneur and investor, and popularly known as founder of one of West Africa's largest e-commerce websites, Konga. He is the current founder and CEO of ULesson Education, the region's fastest growing education technology platforms. In his early days, he worked as a banker with the South African Rand Merchant Bank, from where he moved on to work as Google's head for Africa. And prior to the establishment of ULesson, he was remarkable for setting up businesses that addressed several consumer needs. And in 2005, he founded eMotion, a Lagos-based out-of-home advertising brand, and went on to found Deal Day in 2011, and then Konga in 2013. Konga became known as one of the biggest e-commerce businesses in West Africa. Well, as a result of his remarkable entrepreneurial achievements, Sim Shagaya has received a few awards and accolades over the years. In 2013, he was named the Entrepreneur of the Year at the CNBC All Africa Business Leaders Awards in West Africa. And in 2014, he was named Leadership CEO at the Leadership Conference Awards. He was also listed among the 10 most powerful men in Africa by Forbes in 2014. Ladies and gentlemen, join me to welcome Sim Shagaya, who I hope will be joining us online. Please, a round of applause for him. Thank you. Right. So we'll just get right into this and find out from, let's begin with, today is International Women's Day. So Aisha, we'll start off with you and, find out what you think about our theme for this celebration. Yes, it's the first in a series of lectures that we're going to have. But when you look at Nigeria and you talk about enterprise and innovation, are we enterprising and innovative enough? Tell us what you think.
Good morning. Thank you so much for that question. First of all, I would say that the theme for this year's International Women's Day is Choose to Challenge. And the idea behind that is that a challenge world is an alert world, and from challenge comes change. And I believe the same applies with our country as well. You asked about if we're entrepreneurial as a country, and I keep saying that right now Nigeria is experiencing an entrepreneurial age. This is now my 6th year of operating a small business, and the change from just last year alone, surprisingly, while we were in the middle of a pandemic, is just incredible. So many Nigerians used crises to create opportunity, and we are a country that is heavily, mostly youth populated, and you see people from left, right, and center that are having to critically think and develop new ways of solving problems in our country by starting businesses, and it's evolving, and it's happening very rapidly. So we're at a time now where there's an opportunity to tap into that potential, to bring on board more young people that have the interest, that have the drive, that have the dedication, and want to create new ideas, whether it's for a business or for change. But it's an opportunity for us as a country to recognize that and to come together to not only encourage them, but to create an enabling environment that can drive those businesses forward.
All right, but Dr. George, taking off from what Aisha has said, and especially looking at our country and how easy it is to do business in Nigeria today, because that seems to be a challenge for a lot of people. So we have the ideas, we have all that potential, but then actually starting a business or going into it and being innovative and creative enough might not just be there. What is your experience?
Thank you very much. I think I'll tell a story. I like, maybe from my lecturing days in the university, I like to tell the story because I think it brings out the issues clearly, you know. So I will tell a story of when we decided to set up a school in Abuja. It's a school that currently is responsible for 50 families. It feeds 50 families. I mean, you can imagine a medium-sized school providing work for at least 50 families. That's enormous. But the challenges we faced, and it was the first time I was really trying to do is get into a small business or a medium-sized business, and it's interesting. So from the time we we decided to we got the building approval. We applied for building approval. It was very difficult to get the building approval, the process, and you know, after going through that, we decided to start construction. It was one problem after the other. You know, you had to go through the regulatory process. It was tedious, the bureaucracy, very tedious and expensive. And then you finally finish the school, and we're about to start. Then we paid for this fancy advert at the junction into the school, and then we had the advert people come. Oh, you should have paid more. Oh, you should have done this. I mean, it was one problem after the other. Then you had people, the environmental people come with multiple environmental levies, you know, and you had the local government people come with their business permit. And I mean, and it's not just one business permit, it's multiple, they just keep coming. And the frustrating thing is that you're not aware of this upfront. You just get into it, and then people keep coming and coming. And so I had an interesting conversation with the environmental, the person that came to collect the environmental levy. I said to the person, look what we've been able to do here, you know? Look how many people we've been able to give jobs. Look at how many families we support from this small business. If I'd taken the money and I'd gone to buy a form from one of the political parties, no offense to the political leaders here, we'll probably, this school would not exist. We'll put on our sirens and we will push you out of the road, and we will, and then 50 families will be without work. It goes to the theme that it's actually businesses that drive the economy. It's businesses that will get us out of where we are. It's businesses that will take us to where we want to be. And after that, I think the gentleman took a second look and came back and said, look, okay, don't pay this much. Can you just pay this little so that you can move ahead? So that's some of the problem that business people face in Nigeria. And I know my fellow panelists here will also attest to that. But I mean, it's also important to say that the present administration has done a bit of work in that area. My sister, Jumoke Oduwole, her enabling business initiative has really helped. But there's a lot more to do. There's a lot more to do. And if for anything, what I want us to take away from here is that I believe that the regulatory institutions, that a lot of pressure is put on them to not to regulate, but to raise revenue. They're not revenue-making agencies. They should not be revenue-making agencies. Agencies like NAFDAC, agencies like all these agencies, the local government authorities, they're not supposed to be revenue-making agencies. They're supposed to be enabling agencies. And when you charge so much, or when it becomes very expensive, you push these businesses on the ground. If NAFDAC fees are very high, you have people producing, trying to circumvent the NAFDAC process. This is not what we want. So, not to monopolize the conversation, I think I'll leave it at that.
Thank you so much. I mean, you have touched on how easy it is really for businesses to thrive, and indeed the challenges abound. But as you've also mentioned, quite a lot has been done by the administration to ensure that the ease of doing business comes to the fore and things are a lot better. But Aisha, do you see people willing and freely going into business? I mean, you've been in this for what, 6 years or so, right? Okay, so after you and from what you have seen, do you see people willingly going, especially in this post-COVID era? Let me say, yes, we're still in COVID era, but not as active. But do you see people willing to go into business from your perspective?
Well, I would say that yes, many young Nigerians are very interested and committed to starting businesses, but we have a consistency and a sustainability problem, which is not their fault at all. I studied business studies for my undergraduate degree, and I studied entrepreneurship and innovation management for my master's degree.
So you
and
were
I will tell
prepared.
you, no, and I'll tell you for free that textbook business and business in Nigeria are two different things.
Right.
You have to learn from scratch and create a separate blueprint in order to survive in Nigeria. But of course, the benefits of that is if you're able to withstand a lot of the difficulties that he mentioned and maintain consistency and keep going, then you're able to build resilience and you can overcome everything after a while. One of the most important things I think that we need to solve in the business world, the private sector of this country, is we need to enable employability within that sector, because who are the people that are driving the business forward is the people that work for us. And if you think about our day-to-day lives already, who are our drivers? Who are the people that clean for us? Who are the people that do these day-to-day things that make your days easier and drives your business forward? It's the masses, it's the Nigerian people. We need to enable employability within those people so that they know that it's value that they're providing. We need to build their capacity. We need to build them as people, and we need to find a way to regulate this as well, where we know where to insert them and we build sustainability in that way. Because in my line of work, you have people that are just running around like chickens, gaining all this experience working with different people, but they don't even realize the value that they're adding, because there's no love for the work, there's no knowledge of it, there's no desire for it. You're earning from place to place to get by, to make a salary, but there's no job satisfaction. So these are one of the things that we need to educate the Nigerian people on, in order for them to understand how to even be employable in the first place, how to provide value, so that they're also developing. I mean, Nigerians make up Nigeria. They're the ones that need to be educated and need to understand what it means to even have a job in the first place and the honor associated with that.
Dr. George, taking up from that, I mean, you are a lecturer, and I'm wondering how prepared people are to actually go into the business world. She's mentioned education and being able to impart that knowledge in people and prepare people, young people especially, for what is out there. But it seems sometimes they're just thrown out and you're like, okay, so go and fend for yourself. Whatever you can do to get by, go ahead and do it. So should we have a structured method of learning or teaching young people on what to expect on the outside? Do you think that will make us more innovative and enterprising?
Thank you very much. Again, I will use two industries, or it's the same industry that has progressed in Nigeria without us trying to intervene
Mhm.
directly in that sense. If you look at the music industry, Nigeria, Nigerian music has taken over Africa, taken over the world, taken over the world literally. The Nollywood, I mean, these two enterprises within the same industry have pushed our culture to the centerpiece of African culture. It's taken us outside of Nigeria. It's given us, shown the light. And the key thing is, these people did not, they didn't have to go through any process of any formal educational process or any preparatory process. But the enabling environment was key. There was, they realized, and they realized quickly that if if you do well, you will succeed, you become, make money, you become famous. And then, because there was an enabling environment, an environment that allowed competition, an environment that rewarded hard work, these industries have thrived. And it's testament that to, let us regulate, but let us not over interfere. In terms of building capacity and encouraging, yes, government must, or the authorities must do something to enable business or to support them. And it's deliberate policy of building an ecosystem that allows you, that sort of enables the budding entrepreneur to acquire the necessary knowledge and support. You know, when I say ecosystem, I mean the network of resources that are required. And it should be a deliberate policy. It was interesting I think the government, the present administration had this, the vice president in particular, and it's important to mention that it was his initiative of bringing in a lot of agencies, a number of government agencies together, um, visiting a number of states and trying to provide resources and for entrepreneurs within that area. I don't remember what that is called now, but it was it's an initiative that's helpful. So I think as much as education and providing teaching courses in the university and doing capacity building program, it's also important to do for mentorship, a mentorship program. And mentorship, people are moving from mentorship to sponsorship. So when you make it convenient, or for people to, if you go to Silicon Valley, I always use Silicon Valley as a good example. You find out that if you have an idea, if you have an idea, there are people that will jump out and offer support, offer you the necessary capacity, offer you the necessary resources, the sponsorship to move on. Those are other things that we need apart from formal education and formal capacity building.
Mentoring. Wow. I wonder how many mentors Sim Shagaya had, but Sim joins us right now. He's online. I hope we can get him to share his thoughts, being one who has built so many businesses, who is involved in founded and built businesses in various ways. Sim, are you here with us? Fantastic. Yes, we can, loud and clear. All right, Sim. I mean, you've founded businesses, you're running successful businesses, and I'm just wondering how you're able to do that in this environment. And indeed, if you had some mentors as well, because Dr. George mentioned the place of mentoring, and I think that's really important. Over.
So, on the list. So, yes, I mean, I have with a lot of this already. Nigeria represents not only tremendous opportunity in the past historically, but we're starting to wait. So if you the development of businesses, you start off with factory, and then there's a new breed of celebration. I think all objective, it's really clear that they also present that's really important. Yeah. I think the biggest growth to creativity meaning of that is the biggest constraint is because we're achieving a lot already. There's one open source platform called GitHub. GitHub is interesting because it's an objective measure of how creative from the technology people are. Last year, for instance, Nigerian technology contributors to GitHub anywhere across the world, even ahead of Facebook. So there's an enormous amount of with a lot of anxiety, the immense power project. In terms of mentors, absolutely. Within it, and outside of it, not asking for anything in return. And just very, part of my entrepreneurial journey was how to say this.
Yeah. Yeah, interesting. Glad you mentioned technology and how the world is moving. I think, as he has said, there's so many opportunities open because of technology. Are we maximizing that, Aisha? What do you think we should do? Especially as we look at young people. What's that thing you have to say to young people?
Well, I think we can all agree that the world is looking at Nigeria, has been looking at Nigeria for a long time now. Everybody sees our potential. He talked about the music industry. So we have states like Lagos, which is basically the base of entertainment and the creative arts in the country, right? And this is a state that is progressive as a result of the success of this industry, right? Now, if we can focus on our strengths, like Lagos has focused on its strengths by breeding such talent and being able to run a successful industry as a result of that, if other states can also focus on what is the untapped potential of the country, how many more skill acquisition programs can state governments organize, and what can we foster within the people that we can thrive as a state and move forward, then we would make a lot of progress. There's still tourism that is yet to be tapped to its full potential. There's still culture and the creative arts among so many other industries. So we need to prioritize our potential while also catching up with where the world is right now with technology and innovation, forge more collaborations, and create more dialogue between private and public sector. I have to commend the efforts of His Excellency, the Vice President as well, who has been very vocal about this and has gone to the extent, I believe last year in March, he had announced that they had introduced a new e-platform that was promoting ease of doing business, where people can register a lot more easily for tax and CAC and all of those things. So I have to commend his efforts for being consistently talking about the need for supporting the private sector and startups and SMEs, and of course forging that collaboration between private and public sector.
Glad you spoke about the PPP, because that's where we're going. That's the PPP expert himself. I mean, have we been able to really harness that potential in public-private sector, all the collaborations? What do you look forward to?
Thank you very much. I always say that I'm an apostle of PPPs. I believe so much in private sector-led initiatives for growth. I believe the engine for growth is the private sector, and that wherever we want to get to as a country will be driven by the private sector. PPPs have had a lot of potentials, but we have not completely harnessed those potentials. I'm happy that the governor of Nasarawa State is here with us today. He's one of the governors that have also pushed PPPs apart from the federal level. But the key problem we have with PPPs is that first of all, I say this, Nigeria always says that it's looking for foreign investors, it's looking for, but our body language and everything we do shows that we're not looking for foreign investors. Even the citizens are not looking forward to, we just do not want foreign investors here. And we can have it, we can write it as much as possible and say it as loudly as possible, but we do not create the enabling environment for these foreign investments to come in and thrive in Nigeria. And then we also do not, one thing I believe is, another thing I need to say is that the main reason why PPPs have not thrived is that we tend to expect so much from PPPs. We think that PPPs will solve all the problems. So the policy has always been, just dump it on the lap of the private sector, they will sort it out. And this is not the case. PPPs are supposed to be a marriage between the private sector and the public sector. And both parties ordinarily should work together towards projects for the citizens. The other thing is that we always also assume that the public in PPPs means the government. No, it's the people. It's the people. And the projects should be designed for the benefit of the people. And when you're designing projects for the benefit of people, then they ought to come into consideration. Can they affordability? Can they afford that new toll road that you're putting out? Are there ways of mitigating the cost so that it becomes affordable to them? Two, do they even want this project? You know, three, have I engaged properly with the citizens to understand their concerns? Are there other ways of achieving what we want to achieve? You know, when governors or administrators sit down and they say, oh, I want to build X and Y, I want to do this, it's usually not tied to solving a problem. So you should say, oh, I want to solve the problem of congestion.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I want to build a fine road leading and then you you do a project, you know, literally a bridge to nowhere. You other considerations apart from economic viability drive our decisions.
Yeah, but isn't it assumed that, okay, so if I'm doing this project, it's for so and so purpose, even if I don't outline and say, okay, so this is to help the people or ease congestion, as you said, shouldn't that just be, I mean, because you have mentioned that sometimes the projects are not tied to specific goals. I don't know.
I will give you an example.
Okay.
I'll give you an example. And, you know, so we want to build railway lines across the country.
Right.
We want to do roads across the country.
Right.
We want the inland waterways across the country. We want to do toll roads, and we're building railway lines. The toll roads, are they going to be viable anymore? We want to build railway line or toll roads or roads into if you make me governor today or whatever you make, I will build the road to my village, and I will do it as a PPP. Do you really think that it serves any purpose to build that road? Is it urgent? Is it the most pressing?
Okay.
You know?
So prioritizing,
you
I guess
prioritize,
that's the point.
and you make sure that it solves the problem, the key problem that you want to solve. And not just because it's nice to, you know, it's nice to open the papers and see projects littered all over the papers. And Administrator AYZ has done so many projects, and, you know, they are the father of projects. What has it solved? What problem, you know, what is the reason for the project? Are there cheaper ways or more convenient ways of solving the same problem? That's the mistake we make, and that's why PPP suffer.
Interesting, really interesting. All right, but I mean, we're running out of time, and we're gradually winding down on this. But Sim, let me come back to you, you know, to just check on what you think, looking forward, and the theme for today, building the future of Nigeria through enterprise and innovation. Your quick thoughts, Sim, on moving forward, because that's the point for everyone. Everybody desires a great Nigeria. We all desire progress. We want to move forward. How exactly do we do that through enterprise and innovation? Your quick thoughts.
we need to state that create the responsibilities of the state, which is very regulatory and creating activity at a different factor. But currently, I think if Nigeria can wrap its mind around creating enabling environment and teaching energy of people who are already for whatever reason naturally entrepreneurial, then I think the future can.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Sim, for sharing. Aisha, let me come to you as we, gradually wind down to look at the place of women. We can't overemphasize it. Today is International Women's Day, and yes, we have a lot of women in leadership. We have women who run businesses and are innovative and creative in their own way. What is the future for others who want to be like them?
I don't think we need to make things easier just because we want more female participation, but we definitely have to make it more organized. In business in particular, I would say that agencies that are set up to help and to regulate businesses need to be held accountable when they make it difficult. And I'm speaking out of experience. It's tough when you're starting out and you have a vision, but he mentioned a few examples, but you
Yeah.
just have people come and you don't a lot of people don't start business in Nigeria with knowledge of it, because like I told you, textbook and reality are two different things. So you may come with your degree and say, okay, this is the way it's supposed to be done, and you
And in
just
reality,
you
something
just
else.
catch yourself in a very difficult position, and you already know how things are sometimes if you decide to go the textbook route. So
Right.
we need to be able to hold those agencies accountable, because they become very problematic for MSMEs that are really just trying to survive. In regards to female participation, I would just encourage more collaborations. As women, it's very clear the positions and the efforts and the roles that women play, whether it's in governance or in business. A woman, you give her a responsibility and she doesn't only go A, B, C, she goes A all the way to Z. We're very resilient, and by nature, we're just constructed to be able to handle a lot more than I think the average person. So, we need to trust our women more, give them more seats at the table. If you don't give us a seat at the table, we'll just create our own, really.
We'll
But
bring us it.
yeah, so we need more female participation, of course, in leadership. We need more women to stand up and make the choice of wanting to, get positions in public office, and we need to give ourselves that opportunity, and we as women need to encourage ourselves a lot more.
I like that point you made about encouraging each other, because sometimes, there's this popular thing that women never work together, women fight each other too much. Is that true?
Well, there was I had the honor of listening to His Excellency Ekiti State Governor on a panel recently, and there was a governor on that panel that stressed that point. He was like,
Right.
all of you women are talking about giving you a seat at the table. Are you giving yourselves a seat at the table? You need to encourage yourselves. And he was very right. We all kept quiet. He was very right. We need
Yeah.
to do more, with each other as well. It's not just, okay, this person is like, let's all come together. Let's mobilize ourselves, both, private and public sector collaboration. Let's see what we can do to amplify our voices and to drive, everybody's strengths forward, because it's one Nigeria, and if one person moves forward, we all do. If one person falls, we all fall. So, yeah,
So women should fix each other's crowns.
definitely.
All right. Dr. George, your final thoughts on, just moving forward and building this future that we all desire.
Thank you very much. And just to continue from where she stopped, I think we should be deliberate with our policies on supporting the youth, supporting women. And I find that the procurement process, when we do a procurement process, we usually are not deliberate. If we really truly want to encourage women, for instance, the procurement process should stipulate that we should use it. If you want to procure goods and you want women to supply those goods, because overwhelmingly men tend to do this. So you should have designed the request for proposal in a manner that encourages that. So we should be deliberate. The policies should be deliberate in doing that. And just if to round up, I want to say that and I'm glad that we have some governors here, some ministers here, and some and other potential entrepreneurs dialing in. Is that um, we should one thing. I visited the Silicon Valley in 2016, and I had the opportunity of meeting a number of the entrepreneurs, the techpreneurs, and I asked, um, so why is it that Silicon Valley is so successful? Why is it that the, most of the innovation that come out from here? And you know, and one of them looked at me and said, "Look, in this place, we embrace failure, and in fact, we boast as much as we boast of our successes, we also boast of our failures." So it got me thinking. It got me really thinking, and I realized that our journey is an iterative process. It's our journey to nation building, our journey to economic sustainability. Everything is an iterative process, and we will not succeed all the time. We will fail most of the time, because if you look at most of the products, like majority of the products that come to the market fail anyway. They fail. But the good thing about it is that you learn from that failure, and you're not afraid of failure. You're not numbed by the prospect of failing. Government must be bold. The greatest mistake we'll make is not doing anything at all. I will forgive administrators or anybody for just trying to do something, than not doing anything at all. That's the big crime. So we should, yes, do what we need to do, learn from our previous attempts, but we must be bold, and we must go for it, and we must not be afraid of failure, because growth is an adaptive process, it's an iterative process, and failure would come. But the way we go for it will really determine how we make our future. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Embracing failure, failing forward, as Denzel Washington always says. Amazing thoughts that you've shared. Please, a round of applause for our panelists. Thank you so much. All right, so we can take 2 or 3 comments if anyone has a question for them or thought. Okay, I see one hand that's gone up there. Any other? Number 2 on my far left. Please, let's just make it very, very brief and straight to the point and who you're targeted at. Thank you.
My name is Ahmed Al-Hassan. I'm from MBO.
If you could stand for the camera, sir. Thank you.
My name is Ahmed Al-Hassan. I'm from MBO, Muhammadu Buhari Osubajo Dynamic Support Group. I'm the National Director of Security and Intelligence there. We've talked about building the future. We'll be building this future from 70s, 60s, 80s, 90s. When are we really going to be creating our own future? I think we should be creating our own future now. And what are really stopping us? What is making us not to put roof on that building for more than 60 years? Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ahmed Al-Hassan. All right, the second person.
Good afternoon, good panelists. My name is Comrade Nadio Kutasi from MBO. My question is, in the course of listening to the panelists, they mentioned about various people that, meet the entrepreneurs, in search of maybe revenue and all that. And as an entrepreneur also, I have had this experience of having different people from different organizations, from different agencies coming to ask you for something that you have paid for, by an agency. So there I see a duplication of, offices. after making the payment of this so and so issue, another group will come for that particular issue. So we need to address this in trying to build the future for our economy.
Thank you. Thank you so much, comrade. Finally, there's a hand back there. Thank you.
Let me stand on existing protocols. My name is Tasiu Umar Muhammad. Well, from the topic, we talk about the future, the future, the future. My main question is, those that drive the future in this country are the leaders that we have. Why can't we interrogate the process of recruiting these leaders? Because today, if we don't have the right economy, we have to point our fingers at the leaders. If we don't have a functional, progressive society, we point at the leaders. Today we are dealing with insecurity. What efforts are these leaders making to make sure that the country is safe? We must build on a very stable foundation. To move forward as a country, we must embrace the habits of tolerance and understanding, north and south. So what do we do to get this leadership recruitment process right?
All
I
right.
believe that will solve most of our problems.
Thank you so much, Omar. Okay, so those are the three comments we have. Dr. George, you want to kickstart that? Ahmed Al Hassan wants to know, when are we going to roof this building we've been on for about 60 years now? When are we really going to create create the future and not just stop at building it? And Comrade talked about something you mentioned as well, the multiplicity of payments here and there. And Umar is wondering about our leadership recruitment process. What are we doing about that? Let's just have your thoughts, Dr. George, very briefly.
Okay. Yeah, I know it can be frustrating that, Nigeria, for so many years, we've been on this journey. But what I want to say is that, building a nation or building capacity, or somebody mentioned leadership from the business side of it. It's not just political leadership. It's an adaptive challenge. It's a very, it's not a problem that has solutions. It's not like a technical problem that has technical solutions. You want to build a bridge, you go and build it. So it's not, the sooner we realize that it's not a technical problem, that like building a bridge, you call an engineer and they build it for you. You want to build a house, they build it. It's not that easy. There are lots of issues. And I found out quickly. I mean, it's always good to have a stint in the public service. When I was a lecturer in the University of Lagos, I thought everyone in Abuja was crazy, and why the problem's not being solved? Why are we still having these issues? No electricity, no this. But I got into the public sector and I learned quickly that these problems are very difficult problems and it requires work every day. It requires, and what I need us to understand is that it's not necessarily the leaders that will give us this solution. It's us that will find this solution ourselves. And it's a bit deceptive for leaders to come up and say to their citizens, I will do this, I will do this when they're running elections, because they're not able to do this alone. This is a problem that needs to be given back to the citizens in framing the problem properly. Give it back to the citizens to find a solution. And together, if they're part, because citizens are part of the solution. If you take electric power, for instance, I don't know if DGBP is here. If you take electric power, for instance, you find that, for everyone says, the government has really not solved the problem. We've privatized and the problem is not solved. But there are elements of the problem that we as citizens need to really deal with. The issue of tariff, are we willing to pay cost-reflective tariff? 2, are we willing to stop energy theft? 3, there's so many problems that we need to deal with as citizens. So my answer to that is, again, we will always be a work in progress. The country will always be a work in progress. But we also need to encourage, we as citizens need to play our role. And the role of the administration or government is to give us the platform or the opportunity to play that role.
Okay, all right. I mean, Aisha, multiplicity, paying here and paying there, doing this and doing that. It just seems you're paying stuff over and over again. And that's actually a discouragement to so many people who run business. And I mean, I've worked on radio and I've heard it over and over again of the multiplicity of taxes and all of that. Are you faced with that as well? How do we move forward?
Regarding the regulatory boards that are abusing their power, sir, to answer your question, you need to also know that you have your own rights. So when they come to harass you, you have the right to actually ask to see ID cards and to get their names. Nobody has the right to come and seal you without a warrant. So the worst that they can do is try to intimidate you and come in big numbers, which they've done to me as well. But you have your rights, and nobody can come and oppress you into collecting money from you. Yes, they're very aggressive. Yes, they're abusing their power. And yes, they come with all sorts of stories. But really, unless they come with armed officers and unless you're a criminal, why should they do that? But you have the right to ask to see identification and to find out what departments they're representing and why you're paying the fees that you're paying. So do some of your research as well and see how you can. I would also recommend maybe getting a consultant, because now there tends to be consultants that can help you sort out all those payments on an annual basis, as opposed to every time you're visited and harassed. So I would recommend that as a solution to that problem. And to the person that talked about Nigeria at 60 and being tired and all of that, you know, I wasn't here 60 years ago, but last year I reflected a lot on Nigeria turning 60 and what that means for us today. Those of us that are working every single day to make our own contribution in building a better country. And all I have to say is, anyone that is fleeing the nation right now is going to miss out on what happens 60 years from now. Because the truth is, yes, we've fallen quite a bit from where we were, but we're rebuilding, and we're rebuilding very fast. And we may not be as caught up as the rest of the world is in technology and other industries, but we're catching up in our own way, the Nigerian way. And 60 years from now, 60 years from now, everything that is happening now would have resulted to that progress. So it's happening. It's just very slow. And sometimes when you're in the middle of progression, it's difficult to see the bigger picture because you're standing too close to it. But if you take a step back, and it's why every time Nigerians travel, yes, you're happy to be away, but after a while you start to become homesick. You can't thrive anywhere else as much as you're going to thrive at home. So you have to stay and you have to get your hands and feet dirty and you have to contribute to that future, because it's for you and it's for your children and it's for their children and beyond. So just like he said, we are the piece of the puzzle. We're the ones that are doing it. All the choices that we make today is going to result in the next 60 years. So just have faith.
And make the right choices. Thank you so much, Aisha. Sim, can you take us through the final thoughts on our leadership recruitment process? Someone has mentioned, Umar mentioned that is where our problem is. That's the issue. That's the crux of it. Sim, if you're still there, can you just take us through your thoughts on our leadership recruitment process? What needs to change with this? If Sim can hear me, let's hear from you, sir. Is he on?
Okay. I think countries, say like China, has its own flaws, but one thing that stands out really well, that they've done really, really well over the past, 30, 40, create a structure not only for the selection of political actors, but also for the selection and recruitment of
All right. Hmm. 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 Yeah. Yeah. Hmm. Hmm. All right. Thank you so much, Sim, for sharing your thoughts. Sim Shagaya, Aisha Shuaibu, and Dr. George Wangu. Thank you so much for all that you have shared today. Great experiences and great speaking with you. And we look forward to a brighter future filled with a lot of enterprise and a lot of innovation in Nigeria. Please, a round of applause for my panelists. Thank you so, so much. Thank you all so much for your patience. May I now introduce someone? I know we have someone who is joining us. It's a bit of a surprise, so let's just get into it right away and say hi to the person who is joining in right now. I hope we can get him in. Okay, they're here. Yay! Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Anybody joining me? Happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday to you. May the good Lord bless 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 you. Hip, hip, hip. Hip, hip, hip. Hi, this is our hooray, not hooray issue. Hip, hip, hip. Thank you. Let's give it up for the Vice President. Your Excellency, congratulations. Good to have you join us. Please go ahead. Over.
Was not told I was doing, and so it really, I really had to get so that I can find out what was doing on my be able to thank all of those who organized it. It just shows that after finish at all. Because these are not good, these are not, but I must say that I'm deeply, deeply grateful
obviously decided to do to implement the public service and all the policy. I'd also like to thank all of those who are present. We have people that the governors of the chairman of the governors forum, Dr. Clarifying the Honorable Minister of Works, I just want to thank you very for this wonderful to say that I pray that all of you will celebrate and Lord will advance to bless you and keep you. And that we so much that we want and indeed in our lifetime you will see glory in our lifetime you will see all of our things concerning our country. Jesus' mighty name.
Amen. Amen. Thank you once again, Your Excellency. Please a round of applause for him, and happy birthday again. Thank you. All right, so we're moving on very swiftly. A few messages, and just to find out what a few people who are amongst us have done, in the past, and maybe are doing right now in the area of enterprise and innovation, especially in their spheres of influence. We have former governors here who are now ministers, and let me just respectfully invite the Honorable Minister of Interior and former Governor of Osun State, Ogbeni Rauf Aregbesola, to just share a few words with us for about 3 minutes, and also tell us, what happened in his time as governor in the area of enterprise and innovation, building enterprise and innovation in Nigeria. Please let's give him a round of applause as he makes his way to the podium. Thank you. I'm sure we can give him a better round of applause as he makes his way here. Thank you all so, so much. I mean, during his time as governor, I'm sure a lot happened. So he'll just quickly summarize that for us, and we'll get to hear his ideas on the event today. Another round of applause.
I greet all the dignitaries that are here, party, government, society, and the press. You're all well celebrated. I want to start with something very, very dear to me, which is the significance of today, International Day of Women. I have some hard statistics here that will shock you. Sorry. Yes, we must celebrate women, not because they are the best comforters, but because they represent that rare expectation of humanity for growth, development, and progress. And I have my reason. I asked the CG of Corrections in November, how many women are in the custodial centers? I just asked. I wanted to be sure that the statistics is right. And he sent me, I sent a WhatsApp message to him.
And he replied, and I want to quote him. I'm quoting him. This came in 16th November 2020. He said, total convicted female, 234. Total condemned female, 53. Total awaiting trial female, 1,026. In all, total number of female in custodial centers across custodial facilities in Nigeria, 1,313. Hard statistics sent to me by WhatsApp, so it's written. What is the number of people in the custodial center? By that time, around 64,000. Therefore, the percentage of women in our custodial centers is just 2%. And I reflected on that figure and I said, out of the about 53 women that are condemned, if a thorough study is done, 50% of them will be there because of their men. And don't laugh. When you see this, what does it mean? It tells you that if you are really genuine about our commitment to development, we must put and push our women forward. They are the most disciplined, they are the most honest, they are the most loyal, they are the most dedicated, and they are the ones that are today in Nigeria most productive. We're talking about enterprise, talking about development. Look at the women, look at how they struggle every second, not every day, to ensure that there is food on the table for members of their family. I salute the women of the world, particularly Nigerian women. And I say this very, very seriously, because it is appropriate for us to really identify that segment of our society that is still keeping itself straight. When women are involved in anything, in the majority, you see a result. Different from when majority of men are involved in a project or a thing. That is my takeaway from the few years I was in charge of government in Osun, if that would be of any relevance at all. The second and most important thing, there are two things I must respond to from the all and the people, the panel. The first is, when are we going to roof the building? For as long as there is less left unresponded to. You build for as long as there is life. If you roof, there'll be a problem. In fact, if you roof, those who are coming behind, we remove it. Because you can never think for them. As a matter of fact, every day we live is taken away from those who are coming. Take that as a truism. Every day you live, you are actually spending the life of those who are yet to come, because you must prepare for them. The second issue that is important to respond to is a statement made by one of the panelists, the man, that PPP is discouraged because there is no prioritization. I beg to disagree. All infrastructure, from water infrastructure, to road infrastructure, to rail infrastructure, to air infrastructure, to all infrastructure, are very important, and they must run concurrently, because it's a choice. You may want to fly to Maiduguri, and I want to drive on the road. It depends, it's a function of your need. One does not outweigh the other. We need a complete development of infrastructure for society to run. That is my second submission. And finally, what is my own vision for Nigeria? Simple. And it's in defining this vision that we will all really find a space in it. My vision for the country is this. We must increase our productivity. It's too low. We all tend to blame people in government and think that that's enough. No. The productivity of an average Nigerian is low. These are some of you are not hardworking. Please don't misunderstand me. We are very hardworking. But our output from work is too low. And I will give an example. Because it's important to give examples so that you understand me. And I'm not blaming anybody. I'm just telling you that that's what you must work upon. Productivity. In Thailand, an hectare of land yields minimally 60 tons of cassava. Whereas an hectare of land in Nigeria yields at best, listen to my word, I say minimally in Thailand 60 tons, in Nigeria at best 20 tons. As a matter of fact, the Nigerian farmer works harder on his 1 hectare than the excuse me, let me do this to my, I think this thing is competing with my headgear. Whereas the Nigerian farmer tending his 1 hectare works harder than the Thai, yet their outputs are different. That's the best way to describe and define productivity. It's not about being lazy. We are not lazy. But because of several factors, our productivity is low. That is what we must address. And addressing it requires a gamut of intervention. A gamut. Government has its role. The people have their role. The educational institutions, research centers have their role. It is when we all address this that we'll be able to produce enough to mobilize our people for greater heights. And finally, when we talk about improving, when we talk about eliminating poverty, let's really look at it very well. Is it by charity or handouts? No. It's about improving the quality of life of the people. There is no time for me to explain it, but just note that when you mobilize and motivate the people to understand that where they live, how they live, and the education they have are the basis of life, and they all know that they must mobilize themselves to attain that height, then you have a sane and an equitable society. So finally, I will leave on this note. We are here to celebrate a man who has distinguished himself in virtually every area of life. I met him 22 years ago, and we met on the platform of the fashioning for Lagos. Fashioning for Lagos, a sustainable program for development, really for rehabilitation and development. Because when we began that race, Lagos was almost out. Lagos was at its lowest level of development. So we designed together with the governor of Lagos at that time, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and a couple of others, the template to take Lagos out of the morass we met it to almost an unimaginable level. And I'm happy that to a large extent we succeeded and we are succeeding. So the man we are here to celebrate was part of that team. I must give glory to God and our leader, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, for the opportunity he gave us. One, to support him and to know ourselves. Professor Olayemi Osinbajo is a determined patriot that is committed to the advancement of the black race, not just Nigeria. I thank you for your attention.
Spoken with so much passion. Please, let's give him another round of applause. Really appreciate you. Honorable Minister of Interior, thank you so much for the thoughts shared. And indeed, they're deep thoughts and we must reflect on them. As we wind down, may I now invite to give us the closing remarks, one who has been at the forefront as the Minister of State for Industry, Trade and Investment. She's a politician, and it's my honor and privilege to welcome Madam Aisha Abubakar to share her closing remarks at this event. Please, let's give her a round of applause. It's International Women's Day. Thank you so much. Let's celebrate women as Ogbeni Raouf Aregbesola has. Thank you so much.
Happy birthday, Your Excellency, the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, distinguished governors, participants. Mine is a simple task, just to present the closing remarks. I know the organizers had gone back and forth trying to decide on what best to do to celebrate His Excellency, the Vice President. After seeing all the dedication and commitment and the services he has provided to our dear nation. And they invited us to come and celebrate it in this forum in a series of debates. A lot has been said by our speaker, Mr. Rewani, and the panelists, and indeed from the floor. And I think what Nigeria needs to continue on this footing is for us to take on the task of changing our adaptive leadership style. We have a lot of solutions that are technical, which means we have a problem and we try to solve it. But the adaptive one is the most difficult one because that is concerning us as human beings. We need to change the way we do things. We need to be able to move away from what is norm, to move on to the next platform. And I think this has been very well exhibited when the panelists were talking about all the challenges that we face in trying to set up a business and run a business. For us to be able to build the future through enterprise and innovation, we need to know what can make it sustainable. With the number of unemployed or the number of micro, small, and medium enterprises that we have in the country today, we know that if we're able to give them the enabling environment, they would do well. The narrative would be much, much different from what it is today. So I hope that in building the future for Nigeria, we will all embark on the task of changing our adaptive styles and become more innovative, more flexible, and more friendly. So I want to say thank you very much to the organizers for putting this together. We look forward to many, many more series coming forward, and we wish to celebrate His Excellency, the Vice President. I know that God, in His wisdom, did not give his mother gave his mother the wisdom to give birth to him on this day, to celebrate International Women's Day, because indeed, he knows what it is for women, not just in politics, in business, or in professions. He sympathizes, he understands, and he's always there for women. So we thank you very much, Mr. Vice President, for being a he for she, always. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Celebrating a true he for she at 64. The vote of thanks is up next, and may I invite Mr. Dapo Akinyosun to take us through, to give us the vote of thanks, courtesy of the Building the Future Forum. Please, a round of applause for him. Thank you.
Perhaps I should start by thanking the very able MC. She's done a fantastic job here this morning. Thank you very much, ma'am. I also want to thank the organizers of this very, very interesting event. When I was called upon to be part of what this was, it was a very pleasant surprise. And I was asking, how do you want to do this without telling the VP? Can you shave somebody's head without telling him? Will he not bring the head here? They said, no. It's not about the person that we're celebrating. It's about the principles. It's about the ideals that he stands for. And the reason why we're gathered today is because we're here to celebrate the principles that will move this country forward. As I looked at it, I said, it is true. It's about the future of Nigeria. It's about the future of my state. It's about the future of my village. And indeed, the future of my home. What will I leave for my children if we do not all come, as one of the speakers said earlier, that we cannot, I think the lady Miriam who spoke earlier said, we cannot all just hide away from it. We need to come out and be identified with what we want to live for the future. So I want to thank you for coming out today to show where you stand, that you believe in Nigeria. Some of us have never lived outside Nigeria. We've never worked outside Nigeria. And we lived and believed in Nigeria all our lives. And I'm trusting that as you have come here to stand for Nigeria and show your support for Nigeria, the Lord Almighty will make all your dreams and aspirations come to pass in the name of Jesus. For the distinguished guests who have come, for the wonderful and eloquent panelists, we cannot thank you enough. Bismarck, as usual, has been his intelligent, eloquent, and very, very detailed self. Thank you for that keynote. Thank you, Mr. Sim Shagaya, Aisha, and Dr. George, who have also expounded on these issues very well. We're deeply appreciative, and we hope that the things we take away from here will help us in building the future of this country. Once again, as you can see, talking about innovation and technology, we could not keep a secret even from the Vice President. Through innovation and technology, he found his way into this hall. Thank you very much, sir, for the life you live. Thank you for the example you have been to us, and thank you for the good works you are doing. We really, really appreciate you and pray that long will you live to enjoy the fruits of your labor. God bless you all, and thank you very much.
Thank you for the kind words, Mr. Dapo Akinyosu. Really appreciate it. Now, as we close, may I just say that we'll take a group photograph. I don't know how that's going to happen, but a group photograph outside, right? I guess in front, where? At the banner. Okay, just the front row. Okay, so we'll see what we can do about that. Take a photograph at the banner. We invite everyone at the front and the second rows to please join in that photograph. We hope we can actually observe all COVID rules while taking the photograph. Fingers crossed. All right, looks like our chief celebrant wants to say a word. Please let's just hold on a bit while we listen to His Excellency, the Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Professor Yemi Osinbajo. Sir. And bless you too, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much. Please, the order of photographs, can we just have the national anthem as we close? Thank you, before we go out for our photos. And the order would be the first row first, and then the second row second. Please, the national anthem. To serve our fatherland with love and strength and faith, the labor of our years to serve with heart and might, one nation bound in freedom, peace and unity. Thank you all so much. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon. My name is Inya Ode. Please stay safe. COVID is real. Let's do our best to protect ourselves and protect all those around us. Thank you.
Carried around in the back of my pocket. She was always with me. I imagined that I was a man of importance, and she had a fancy for me. And I used to dream she would call, crying her eyes out. She had an obsession with me. I was the love of her life. She was all mine, girl in the Life magazine. The first time we met in an aisle at the market, she was staring